Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about devolution within politics. So 4.8, defining devolutionary factors. So we're going to look at some examples as to the different factors that can cause a state to devolve. So these can include division of groups by physical geography, ethnic separatism, ethnic cleansing, terrorism, economic and social problems, and irredentism. So let's take a look at these. So first of all, overall, devolution, this is the process in which regions within a state demand and gain political strength and growing autonomy at the expense of central government. So when smaller, local, regionalized areas want to have autonomy, as in more independence, more freedom, the ability to self-govern a little bit more. So this is not balkanization. This is just a challenge to state sovereignty, and this can destabilize the central government. So this example here, we have Great Britain, Scotland, Wales, and North Ireland here represented as different puzzle pieces separated. So for the UK, in recent years, we've seen a devolutionary process happen where some of these areas like Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland have been gaining their more independence, more rights of self-governance, the ability to make their own choices outside of just that centralized government. So that's just one example of where we see this happening. In terms of what factors can lead to this, we have a variety. We're going to go into each one, but keep in mind that all of these are centrifugal forces, or forces that divide, or forces that separate people and places. So first, physical geography. This is one that can, because of the way that physical geography is, regions can be separated from the central state. So things like mountain ranges, deserts, bodies of water actually physically make it more difficult for areas to be united. And then we can see that devolution process begin. Fragmented states, like actual separation geographically, like Indonesia or the Philippines, are more prone to this. Distance decay, right? Keep that in mind from Unit 1. As distance increases between two locations, the quantity and quality of interactions decline, which can lead to devolution. Here we have a couple of more examples here. Indonesia, multiple islands that can create some devolution. The Kurds, a stateless nation, which we've already used as an example earlier in this unit, because of that area where they're in geographically amongst mountain ranges, it also allows for that sense of independence and that want of independence. So ethnic separatism. So this is when people of a particular ethnicity in a multinational state, or a state that has multiple nationalities, identify more strongly with their ethnic group than as citizens of the state. So when this happens, we start to see them gaining more of a sense and a want of independence. So many times this is a result of mistreatment of that particular group, or disparity between the dominant ethnic group and the minority ethnic group within a state. So if the minority feels that they are not being treated equally, if they're not being treated fairly, if they are at a disadvantage, then they might want their own independence. Also, ethnic cleansing, which is another step, right? This is not just separatism. This is more like genocide in the more extreme cases. So state governments attack an ethnic group in an attempt to eliminate them through expulsion, imprisonment, or mass murder, and can lead to genocide such as the Holocaust. So ethnic separatism in China, I'm pretty sure we've all seen this in the news, different issues that China has in their various regions. So overall, the population of China is about 55% Han Chinese, the ethnicity. So Tibet is one of the regions that wants its own independence, where we see the devolutionary movements definitely happening. Tibetan Buddhists view themselves as culturally distinct from the dominant China. They feel that they are their own ethnicity and religious minority, and they have a long history of resisting invasions. So the Dalai Lama has been exiled to India since 1959, and up to today, they continue to advocate for themselves to be their own independent region. In terms of ethnic cleansing, unfortunately, we also see this example in China with the Uyghurs. So the Uyghurs used to be part of East Turkestan, and the people in this area traditionally speak Turkish and practice Islam. Ethnic separatism and infighting for sovereignty. Some the Uyghurs have felt forced to turn to violent tactics in order to maintain their independence. But overall, the whole group has been labeled as threatening and has been sent to re-education centers, which are, essentially concentration camps. So here we have satellite imagery of proof of this, right, where these buildings are, these re-education centers or concentration camps. You can pause and take a read through this, and this is what China says, or the government's official stance is, that they're trying to re-educate them because they've been infected by unhealthy thoughts. So that is their standpoint as a government. Again, some more satellite imagery, and this is absolutely against their will, targeted at a particular ethnic minority group. Another factor that can lead to devolution has to do with terrorism. So this is organized violence aimed at the government and civilian targets, and it intends to create fear in order to accomplish political aims. So this is usually done by non-governmental groups. Because they don't have an army, they still use violence with these tactics in order to have recognition or power or some sort of control in the situation that they want. So here are a few examples. The one that we might have heard about most in the news over the years has been Palestine and Israel, and some of the terrorist attacks that have happened in that conflict. Economic and social problems can also lead to devolution. So when there's uneven development within a country or different levels of economic activity, that can lead to certain areas having more wealth than others or more development than others. There can be conflict over the allocation of funding from the government. So one example is Scotland. They have oil and gas assets in their area, and essentially the UK has control over those assets. So for a multitude of reasons, some people in Scotland want their independence, and this is just an additional layer to how that devolution started happening. So with social issues, issues of discrimination against a minority group can definitely help prompt devolutionary forces. And finally, irredentism. So this is a majority ethnic group wants to claim territory from a neighboring state due to a shared culture with the people residing across the border. So when there's an established political border, but we see similar culture on both sides, then one country might try to claim that area. So they might call that reunification, as in reuniting that area into their country of multi-state nations. So nations that exist in more than one state. An example is Russia with Ukraine, right? That's been Putin's whole reasoning, saying that Ukraine is Russia, right? That the people in Ukraine, in that part of Ukraine, in Crimea and in other areas, speak Russian, they're ethnically Russian, they need to be brought back into the country that they belong, right? That's the reasoning that he uses, or he has been using with the war. So all of these are different factors that can lead to the division of country and the devolution of